Mountain God needs no donations, only worship please. Chapter 54. Fan Fiction by Azazyel. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel for listening and patreon.com/Azazyel to read all of his stories. I watched with paternal care as my dwarves used great artillery, of which they were both using mundane high explosives and exotic magical munitions. I gazed upon the battle as fallen and devils alike attacked the old hell that was connected to the Gensokyo that I had taken over with all due patience. Unfortunately, beyond throwing massive boulders towards the devils or fallen, there wasn't anything I could do with how they were out of my range of influence and the power I wielded. But even though I couldn't directly fight, I could spawn infinite ammo for my dwarves and heal or even resurrect any Oni that fell in the vicious battle. But I could tell when my message was received by the many humans of the world. Beyond the mission to kill Cao Cao and other leaders of the hero faction, I also put bounties on fallen and devils that could be killed and have rewards like the waifu tokens and other treasures to be redeemed. And my legion of murder hobo gamers, when I wanted them to be, were immortal after all. Everyone messes up while playing Elden Ring/Dark Souls. I didn't mind bringing their mortal forms back to life and sending them back to Earth to heal their souls from the resurrection. What kind of GM would I be, if a single fuck-up ended someone's playthrough and cut their adventure short? All the lovely cringe idiots I loved watching go about their life in the sub-realm of Ororio and its dungeon were here. There was Florida Man with his army of super gators, there was Clockasy, with his army of clockwork automaton waifus. Honestly, the biggest turnout were men who were clearly here to fuck shit up, to take their waifus home to prove to their parents that their interdimensional waifu was real. Sakuya, please go deal with Kateria Leviathan, I said, pointing at the tan-busted devil woman wearing something that was almost like a parody of a slutty secretary outfit that left most of her body clear to everyone's view. My gamers were having some issues with the ultimate class devil, and seeing the devil I pointed out via our remote viewing system, Sakuya nodded, and without a word, her eyes glowed red as she stepped out of the timeline to teleport over there. Then within a single split moment, Sakuya had reached her frozen foe and had begun throwing dozens of large daggers toward her while she was out of the timeline. When Sakuya left the timeline, although she could take things with her, and throw things while out into the native timeline, she couldn't interfere with the native timeline, so that's why Sakuya wasn't completely unstoppable, as regardless she couldn't directly hurt someone in her time stop and had to set up her attacks to build the momentum to do actually harm, typically with her knives. But knowing of that weakness, I gave Sakuya another tool to be at her disposal. After she set up a perfect sphere of what seemed like hundreds of knives poised to slam home into Kateria, Sakuya reached into her space ring and then began leaving fist-sized grenades already primed to explode instantly the moment she left her time skip. And that's what she did, all of that taking place in an unimaginably small instant, where in that tiny moment where the knives flew at great speed into Kateria's flesh, I got to see Kateria's eyes widen in terror even as she instinctively blocked all the knives with a wave of water in front of her. That didn't stop all the knives coming from above, below, and behind her. And those knives sunk deeply into her flesh and blood poured down her form. But that wasn't all. Sakuya also left behind those grenades, so even as I felt Sakuya land beside me in a graceful crouch, with she instantly continuing to pour the tea she left floating in the air. Kateria's form, however, was then completely overtaken by a massive explosion of orange energy as the dozen or so grenades Sakuya left behind tore through Kateria with the same energy of conceptual annihilation that my EA created, leaving not even a corpse behind from the power of the grenades she used. Sakuya, you don't need to use so many grenades, I said wryly with a small smile. Sakuya merely nodded. Very well, I shall keep that in mind. I am still used to the spell card rules of Gensokyo and haven't readjusted myself to going more controlled lethality, instead of the usual filling the sky with spells and fake knives, she explained with a bit of a small sheepish smile making me snort. Either way, I looked away from that little sight as the gamers that Sakuya helped cheered loudly at still getting partial credit for their kill, and blinked before a hysterical snort escaped my mouth, seeing the fucking armless Cao Cao being carried by the hero faction's gene on a pseudo-dragon of conjured holy swords forced into that shape. But what had made me laugh so heartily was the sight of Cao Cao holding his true Longinus within his mouth as they flew desperately towards old hell to escape the underworld and the many factions racing after them. Wouldn't it be the biggest troll of them all to snatch their kill? I asked Sakuya with a deep chuckle as Cao Cao and Jean did the stupidest thing they could, as Cao Cao had made one major miscalculation. Just because I played at being a mountain god and controlling the surface of my mountain with an iron fist, and allowed the Oni and my dwarves to control old hell and its weird groups, he had forgotten I was a fucking mountain and mountains had the deepest of roots. I allowed Chow Chow to fly within my territory of old hell, and then like Sakuya I pulled the same trick in stepping off the timeline with my puppet body so that within an instant I was right beside Jean and Chow Chow who were flying towards the old volcanoes of old hell where Oku and the Satori sisters lived. And in that single instant as Chow Chow swiped his head to the side to swing the mouth-mounted True Longino at me, I ducked under the swipe and before either could react more, I shot them both in the face. With Taco Bell Diablo sauce right in the eyes. Fuck you, Chow Chow. Your parents sold you because they literally didn't love you. I yelled before kicking him in the nuts into the air off the Holy Sword Dragon and then roundhouse kicked him into the distance back towards the rushing form of Issei Hyudu and Vala Lucifer.